So,
Yeah, buddy.
here we go. Ben?
Yes, sir.
It's finally happening that we're going to be talking about Band of Brothers.
It's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. I think especially for the fact that we reference Band of Brothers pretty regularly in a lot of the movies and television shows that we've already discussed. So, and I know for a fact, and the listeners, for those who are paying attention, should know that this is, if I remember correctly, your favorite piece of cinema of all time, or would be considered your favorite piece of movie if it was a movie.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But you can't call it a movie because it's not. It's
not.
10 hours of incredibleness.
Yes.
But yeah, we did reference it early on. I think I referenced it like the first episode we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I worked it into the conversation, but I did. And I misquoted. I thought it was shot on Super 16 because it's got a really grainy image to it. It's not. It was all shot on 35. And then the interviews were all HD.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say on a rewatch, that's what got me more than it ever has before is all the interviews with winners on down. That's kind of I always get pretty emotional by the end of it. But all the feels. This just ticks every box for me, man. Like it's I'm not partial to fiction, nonfiction, but it's just incredible that this stuff really went down and that these guys really lived this. And then I get a piece of cinema that's so faithful to their story, their account. Visually, it's obviously a cousin piece to Saving Private Ryan, which is its own standard bearer when it comes to the war genre. This is it for me. This has the only thing that this lacks is like when I talked about Master and Commander is this doesn't have any sort of romance element to it. It's just about a group of men going through hell.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right there with them. Mm-hmm. As close as you can be in a cinematic nature.
Yeah. So I recently rewatched this too. This is something I usually watch a little bit, and I noticed that I actually usually get about halfway, get to I think Bastogne or just the episode after Bastogne, and then something comes up and I never finish it. So I've actually the last 4 episodes, I don't have that much familiarity with it. So it's a lot of fun to rewatch and kind of see those again. And the great part about it was Laura has actually never seen this before, ever. And so I asked her, I was like, and she's not a big war film person. She doesn't really she'll sit through some of them, but most of the time she's like, Alec, you watch it on your own. I'm going to go do something fun and happy. So just a whole lot of death, a whole lot of that just doesn't interest her and just affects her. And she's just doesn't want to do it. But she was like, you know what, I'll sit down and I'll watch it. And I think the first night we watched Currahee and the second episode, the name escapes me at the moment.
Day of Days.
Day of Days. And she was hooked is not the right sense because obviously it's such an emotional piece of cinema to sit through it that it's not like, oh my goodness, I want to watch it. This is so good. I want to watch it. But she was, as having worked in the industry, she was like, oh my goodness, I appreciate it. And this is so many levels of how well done it is, how engaging it is, how much is this is going to happen. And Carlin, you and I need to see it. It's fantastic. It's on Netflix. It's on Max. It's go do it. So that's what you need to do. And a lot of writing. So never base your watches on what we say anyways too. So you should always do your own research. But anyways, with that, so Laura loved it. Again, not trying to she was just impressed by how well done and how engaged she was with it, even though it was a topic she had no interest in whatsoever. She didn't want to go through the death. She didn't want to have to go through all of the injuries, all of that kind of stuff, but she just was drawn in about just how well that was produced. And I'm going to go off of what you said real quick is I even think this took a step further than Saving Private Ryan in some of the imagery that it used and some of the shot selection. I think there are scenes and images of shots that are happening in this series that I think transcend what Saving Private Ryan did. I think they really did step up their game a lot. Obviously, they had 10 hours to do it in, but it's impressive.
Yeah, you never get a battle sequence like the opening 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan,
No.
but it's pretty remarkable the level of combat that you do get in about 7 or 8 of the 10 episodes. And it's pretty remarkable how well they pull off duplicating German armor in this movie, in this series, which is a really hard thing to do because there's really no German armor left. Like it was either destroyed by Americans or the Russians, or if it was just scrapped, like the metal was just melted down. And there's I believe the YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure it's Mark Felton Presents, I think is the YouTube channel, millions of subscribers. He's a British historian. He did a deep dive a couple weeks back, I think, within the last month, on how Band of Brothers achieved like remarkably accurate German armor for the series. And they use a combination of British APCs and armored personnel carriers, different other vehicles, and build on top of them, much like he also did Saving Private Ryan several months back too, and kind of reveals like how close they get, but the tracks will usually give away the fact that it's not really German armor. But yeah, the combat is remarkable. And, for the longest time, my favorite episode was Carentan because of the street fighting when they take that town. And it's still highly ranked up there for me, but I don't necessarily keep coming back to this series for the combat as good as it is. I come back for the characters. And that's where it achieves something more special than Private Ryan just by virtue of its runtime. But I also think because it's nonfiction. And when you're watching these guys at the beginning and the ends of episodes, the real men that survived recount, and then you're watching just incredible portrayals by, the whole cast, Damian Lewis, Livingston on down. Like nobody turns in a bad performance in this. And you get this really nice thing. They start doing it, probably 2 or 3 episodes in, where you're tending to follow one guy more than anybody else. Like, the first episode lays the groundwork, and ironically enough, Sobel's the one that you probably learn the most about in episode 1. 2 is Winters. 3 is Blythe, which we need to get to Blythe.
We will.
But they, I think episode 4 is the replacements. They follow Bull Randleman, who Winters later calls probably the best soldier he ever had. And he's portrayed as such in the show. But you get this, it goes micro, and you get to know these guys better than you can in a 2-hour movie. And I think Private Ryan did an awesome job of like conveying character and giving you a different cast of characters over 2.5 hours. But this just is enabled to really do a deep dive.
Yes. And Travis, the interviews really are what changed it. I think between the interviews because obviously they don't really tell you at the beginning who's talking. So you're are these the guys from Easy Company, or are these, Dog Company, or like just random, and then obviously it shows you later on of like who they are. And Laura's already pointing out like halfway through she's like, oh, that's Garnier, oh, that's, so-and-so. And so they really did a good job. I think the other thing too, so one of the things we talked about Masters of the Air, that this helps Travis with what kind of you're saying, is that it was a lot easier, and I use pun intended, a lot easier to follow just Easy Company through it all. You have a cast of characters that kind of stick with it the entire series, whereas the Pacific or Masters of the Air, it's harder to, because you're juggling characters, they're in different spots, or you completely change characters because of deaths. It's at least here you have some characters who make it throughout the end, and obviously Winters and Lewis, they obviously you can kind of follow them throughout of it, and they're just kind of in parts, and you kind of see them grow as well. See some of the other characters grow into their roles, of Lipton becoming a non-com, of Malarkey becoming a non-com, but also seeing the toll of war on them and all the death that they've seen, all the friends they've had to watch pass. That it just makes it something far more special. Again, is not the right word, but far more emotional and far more engaging than what I got from the Pacific and Masters of Air, which both were really well done. I thought were fantastic, but they don't hold a candle to this show.
This is the advantage of Band of Brothers is following a single company.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why when we did Masters of the Air and when we do the Pacific, which we will, because it's a great series, it was just at a disadvantage from the start.
Yeah.
Because you're hopping around between multiple units. And then in Masters of the Air, that was just the fact that those guys just didn't live very long.
No.
And that's the irony, is that you had a way higher odds of living through the Second World War as a member of Easy Company, in spite of their heavy losses, way better odds of living through the war than being a B-17 crew member. Like, and I don't even know if I realized that until I watched through Master of the Air and just realized like the losses because of the daytime bombing. But this series has it all for me. Obviously, it checks every box. I can't tell how many times I've watched it through, at least once a year. It's mind-blowing, the cast. And the irony of the cast is that anybody that had major roles went on to have good careers, but it's the bit parts that go on to have like mega star careers, which is kind of ironic in that way. Like, obviously Damian Lewis has had an incredible career in film and television. Ron Livingston was probably the best known going into this of anybody they had cast. Maybe
Donnie Wahlberg second,
Yeah. But those guys are mostly relegated to TV. But then you start digging deeper into the cast, and you got Janovic, which is Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
And you've got Christensen, Michael Fassbender. So like those are the two big ones that are just kind of dug. Like, and watching it back, Fassbender actually shows up more than I remembered him. But he looks so different. He still has like almost like a baby face to him in this show that he lost like by the time they made Inglourious Bastards or something like that. But he's actually in it like a fair bit, especially towards the last 2 or 3 episodes of the show. I was like, oh wait, like he's got more lines and he's around. But is there? Oh, and was it McAvoy? He's in like McAvoy. One episode. Dude can't live through the Second World War in a movie to save his life, because he dies in this, and he dies in what? What's the one where he's a British? He's stuck at Dunkirk and he doesn't make it out. Atonement.
Yeah,
he's in Atonement. I don't think he survives either. So he's only in one episode. Sadly, I think he gets mortared, and it's pretty rough.
Well, so the other interesting thing is, because you talked about how awesome their performances were, and I completely agree. Like, the acting in this is actually stellar, and it's surprising because like Spielberg and Hanks talked about the fact that they hired a lot of the actors based more on how much they looked like their actual real life counterparts as opposed to their acting skill. So, I mean, when you're doing that, obviously you're going to get, you're going to pick the best that you can get from that, but they didn't really lose out. Like, there was no one there that was like, well, you look like the guy, but your acting's pretty terrible. Everyone was absolutely stunning at what it is. And even so, they gave Ron Livingston a camera to like film the pre-production and when they're on set and stuff, like when they're shooting things of that sort. And during his goodbye party when he was in LA before he shipped out for boot camp, he actually met Lewis's wife, and she was like, wow, you look a lot like him, and like brought pictures and stuff like that. And so like I actually got to talk to her. And so that was a lot of fun, just kind of seeing that. She was just, they have like pictures of her sidled up next to him, and just going, you're very handsome. It's like, yeah, like you look like my husband when he, like 50 years ago. So it was a lot of kind of fun to see that too. But when you're doing that, when you're picking people based on what they look like and how close they look like the real life character, I mean, it's a shot in the dark whether or not they're going to be actually that great of an actor. And there's so many emotional points on that are riding on the actors of them performing that I probably would not have made the decision. I would have been like, I'd rather pick the better actors and just let life go. The other thing that I love, and as an actor, is that Hanks and Spielberg basically told all the directors who did all the episodes, they said, hey, the actors have been in contact with their real life counterparts.
Right.
When on set, if they disagree with what the script says, because that's what they were been told, you go with what the actor says. Like you don't follow the script, you change it up. If a character says, oh, I shouldn't be here, so and so Malarkey wasn't actually at this battle, he walked off set and you didn't shoot Malarkey in that scene because he wasn't there.
Which happened a lot.
It did happen a lot.
The actors ended up taking themselves out of all sorts of scenes, like removing, because the guys weren't there.
Well, and like one I was read and I really liked was like it talked about how Donnie Wahlberg was supposed to be really mean to Colin Hanks's character, Lieutenant Jones. So Lipton was supposed to be, but
West Pointer.
Yeah, exactly. But then when Donnie Wahlberg talked to Lipton was like, no, this is not correct at all. No, like he was a really nice guy. Like I liked him. No, I was not mean to him at all or whatever. And so, I mean, some of that could have been looking back with different eyes, but also,
because that's what Ambrose has been accused of, was that a lot of this is just kind of cult of personality. Like that there's some other historians that have kind of came at him. Ambrose isn't alive anymore, I don't think, but they came at him because this is all winners and the men that liked winners. It's their account, and so it's viewed through a certain shade of glasses. Because the character that really takes a hit is what's his name, the commander when they take Foy. Foxhole.
Yes.
I forget what they call him, but
the lieutenant that keeps disappearing.
Dyke. It's Dyke.
Yeah.
So Dyke gets painted terribly in this series, and there are some historians that say that actually Dyke wasn't really a bad soldier. Dyke had fought in Holland and done some good stuff, and there was a claim that Dyke was actually wounded in Foy, and that's when he shut down. Whereas in the series, he just can't handle it and he shuts down. So, but it seems to be without question that he was hard to get a hold of as CEO of Easy. And so his reputation for disappearing seems to be legitimate. So, and history is written by the victors. And so in this case, now the one that still ticks me off, because this show mostly is screened digitally, right? I've got the nice, metal DVD copy. I'll probably never get rid of it, even though I watched this lately on Netflix. But the fact that most people now are going to watch this in a digital format streaming, and they will not fix what happened to Albert Blythe in episode 3, Carentan, because in the credits. So going almost on 25 years now, it says Albert Blythe died of his wounds or in 1948 or something like that. And that's not what happened. And Winters even corrected it later in an interview. So apparently Joe Toy and Bill Garnier thought that they had attended Albert Blythe's funeral, and they either mixed up the soldier or it was another Albert Blythe. But either way, Blythe made a full recovery, jumped with I forget which airborne, 187th maybe, into Korea.
Oh wow!
Made a combat jump behind enemy lines in Korea. Fought through the Korean War. He died in 1967 of liver failure. He was unfortunately a raging alcoholic, but good soldier. And yeah, Winter said he did. He had hysterical blindness. That part's true. But he overcame it. It's not like he continued to be an issue. So it kind of kills me that they won't fix it. Like go in there and just create a new slate. That Blythe fought through the Korean War and died in 1967. Fix it. This is ridiculous to me. This piece of nonfiction has got an error that big that just continues to sit in the end credits. Why? Everything's digital now. Just, I guess that's a lot. I know it's a lot of work, but so anyway,
you're not going to, outside of correcting the actual like historical stuff, you're not going to get any more money or anything off of it. So
No.
why touch it? So no.
And the Netflix transfer, by the way, was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I watched it right here on the projector, and
I bet that was
all
nice.
10 episodes. Oh, it was so nice. Yeah. And it was almost like watching it through fresh eyes on a screen that big. Because I'd always wanted them to re-release Band of Brothers in theaters. Like, I still think they should do that. I think every year they should just release it in theaters.
I'd go.
I think it'd be surprised how many people would show up and catch a few episodes. So we've been trying to put out ideas to salvage the film industry and cinema since we started doing this nonsense, and nobody's listening. So
No, it's one of the reasons why you and I don't work in the industry anymore. They didn't take any of our ideas. So,
and work in the industry is a loose term. I mean, I'm just kidding.
Very, very, very loose.
Yeah.
Very, very loose.
We're basically liars. No, we're not.
Yeah, no, we're not.
We're not. We
not.
just
Didn't get much.
Well, I
got
tell
too
you,
far.
after COVID, and then another strike,
Yeah.
2 strikes. I'm so grateful I'm not out there anymore.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of talented people, especially in post-production, that haven't been working for over a year. Like really gifted people that are going to have to just change careers, which makes me super sad. So,
yeah,
man.
Oh, man. So I did want to talk about, I really think Damian Lewis and Ron Livingston did a great job of showing that relationship that the Real Dick Winters and Lewis had with each other. Because they actually, I mean, so much so, like, they were best friends. Well, I don't know if best friends, but they were friends for basically life. And then, like, Winters actually worked for Lewis at his family's company, like, post-war. So, like, they were longtime friends. And so, like, it's nice to kind of have that, to show that on camera of, you know, those kind of things. And just how different they actually were. Like, how much they were two very different soldiers, two very different men. And I mean, obviously with your talk of, we're looking at Winters through kind of the eyes of people who thought Winters could do no wrong. I don't know. I still think, you know, having read the book, you know, watched the series and read some other stuff, I do think Winters was an exceptional soldier and led his men well.
That's not in dispute. I think it's a byproduct of a guy that was so beloved that anybody that might have opposed him is just got absolutely steamrolled, like wrecked.
Yeah.
So as far as recollection and different things like that, it's like they're not gonna fare well up next to a group of guys that, I don't know. I love that quote there. They don't ever reveal who it is. I think he might have been a replacement because he talks about the Toccoa guys, but he's like, he also talks about the officers. He's like, we didn't have very many good officers. There's only one. He's like, a bunch of them I wouldn't even have like followed in the water. But their NCOs were really, really good. I mean, and this isn't anything new. The NCOs are the backbone of the military, like without question. Like, you know, it's not about the officers.
No.
And I thought the show's true to life with that.
Well. And it makes a very emotional moment, at least for me. Like, it always hits me every time. Like, it's the Foy episode at the end when Lipton is talking with Spears after Spears has just become Easy Company's captain, and he's just like, it's really good to have, you know, a CO again that the men can look up to. And then Spears basically just says from what I've heard, they've had a leader who cared about them since day one. And he's just like, you have no idea who I'm talking about. He's like, no. And he's like, it's you. Well, that whole episode's really tough and to deal with on a whole lot of different levels. But before that,
they go through all the guys that they lost, and you see them in the church.
Yeah, and then just slowly disappear.
And they fade. Yeah, they fade out either due to injury or a lot of them die. Yeah, I don't know which death affects me the worst. Muck and Pink is probably up there. When Luz is trying to crawl into the foxhole with him, and he gets within, I don't know, 10 feet, and a shell comes in. It's and you see the real Malarkey later be interviewed. You don't know it's Malarkey, but he recounts where Doc Rowe asked, like, did you want to go see Muck and Pink? And he was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this.
No.
Yeah.
Oh. So I think, so going kind of to the action, I know your favorite, I think, of action is Karen Tan, is episode 3.
Yeah, just the street fighting when they is just it's just relentless. Like
it's powerful, and so I think after this watch, I'm going to continue with mine, and I think for me, the Day of Days episode where they go to the different, like, blow up the different
the guns at
the guns.
Yeah, like Breton Court. It's the one that's still demoed at West Point.
Exactly. That one, for whatever reason, that one just floors me every time I watch it, of just how amazingly shot it is, the strategy based off of it. You know, that's my favorite of the entire series, is that action sequence of them, like, going after those guns and blowing those up. I mean, also you have a little fun because, not fun, but you have an interesting of, you have, the name escapes me, the guy who was with Able Company, but who kind of joined along and brought TNT when Lipton was still kind of stuck back or whatever, and he started blowing stuff up, and Garnier was giving him so much grief. But again, and it shows Winters in a very good light, where he's like, I lost my radio, but he had his gun. And he's like, well, I'd say you're a rifleman first and a radio man second. He's like, yeah.
Well, and that actor, that's the actor that plays in Sherlock.
Yeah, as Moriarty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just in the one episode because unfortunately he gets hit by I think a grenade.
Yeah, explosion when he's there. Yeah, because Winters then, like, kind of has that moment of, like, mid-action sequence. They're going to the next one where he stumbles over the body and is kind of like does a quick look and then has to move on, just because, you know, you're in a firefight, you can't stop and sit. But
well, it's interesting, that episode, because you're 2 episodes in, and at the end of that episode's where you hear the voiceover from Winters of, like, it only took that one 24-hour period of combat, and he's already making a commitment to himself and to the Almighty that if he makes it through this, he's gonna find a quiet piece of land. And like, that's how quick in the show. It's not like halfway through he's doing that. It's like, no, that's all it took. Like, seeing that kid get killed, the entire plane that Lieutenant Meehan was in, they pretty much know by that point it went down. Yeah. He's like, no, I've seen enough death. Yeah. And that followed him because they called him up for the Korean War. He was such a good soldier, and he agreed to train paratroopers and rangers. And that was it. And then he gamed the system so that he wouldn't have to deploy to Korea. He was done. He was just done.
No, I mean, to go through all that, and I like how Damian Lewis plays him, especially in Foy, where you could see that his love and his desire to protect Easy Company doesn't go away as he moves up the rank, as he becomes battalion. That he starts to run off, and he actually, and Syke has to call him back, like, you will stay at your post. Sink.
They'll die.
Who's great as always. He's fantastic. But yeah, Damian Lewis just kills it in this role.
Well, isn't it him that, like, his cast members didn't believe he was a Brit? Because he kept the accent going. Yeah. I think it just helps, like, if you're trying to do an accent like that, to not drop it. And they didn't believe him. They were like, they didn't believe he wasn't American.
Well, because when they got to boot camp, they were supposed to be their characters. They were not called by their actual names. They're called by their character names.
That makes sense.
And so I'm assuming, Damien was just like, well, I'm Captain Winters, going to talk in Winters. And if you actually watch, like, the behind the scenes stuff, he's talking in his American accent. He's not.
That's a very
in his
Christian
British
Bale
accent.
thing to do, by the way.
Yeah.
To do all the press. If you're an American character, to do all your press still in an American accent.
It's like,
Bale does that, and there are people that for the longest time thought Christian Bale is an American actor.
Spoiler: he is not.
No, I did want to mention one interesting thing with. So this is an HBO production, but unfortunately, on this side of the pond, like the BBC doesn't get the love that they frankly kind of deserve for. Like, so HBO funded a lot of this, but as far as a lot of the crew and producing the producing power behind it, it's a BBC production. It's a joint HBO BBC. When it screened over there, in the UK, it was dubbed as a HBO/BBC. And here's a unique feature of the UK version: episodes 1 and 2 screen together, and the shot of Winters in the C-17 at the end of episode 1 moves seamlessly into the start of Day of Days for the UK presentation. So I think the Brits have got the better version of the show when it comes to that. I think it makes sense that you would watch 1 and 2 just seamlessly back to back, just to get yourself fully immersed in the show. So, and the interviews that are at the start of Day of Days for the US release are tucked on the back end of the UK release. So, but yeah, the BBC had a lot to do with this. It's almost exclusively a British crew. Obviously, they shot in England. What I find interesting, there's a few folks here and there, like the composer's no longer alive, but he did a bunch of big movies. There's a couple other crew members that like got into some big feature filmmaking, but a lot of them, even the cinematographers, pretty much just kept doing like British cinema and British television, which I found kind of surprising. When I see something like this, I would think that this thing was just like a career maker. And I think for some folks it was, but not everybody involved. I think, unfortunately, I think when I watch it, I think Hanks and Spielberg get like a little too much credit. I mean, I think their name behind it helps like get something like this greenlit, but this crew is top notch. Like the production designer, costuming, stunts, like, and the list, go on IMDb, it is massive. I mean, this thing shot for 9 months. It took forever to make.
Well, they did a lot of practical effects. They had to like figure out like all the trees that burst in the Bastogne episode are actual effects. They're not real trees that they're blowing up. It's actual,
right.
They had to build those. It's ridiculous what they had to do.
Yeah, all that stuff, by the way, everything holds up. I don't really look at many of the visual effects, and I think maybe the beginning of Day of Days with the jump is a little, just kind of has its own unique look to it, where it's like, I know this isn't quite real, but it still looks good. And everything else after that's practical. I mean, they're not. I think there's some CGI tracers and or composited tracers and some muzzle flash and stuff put in, but that's it. I mean, the rest of it's all in camera. So like, I mean, this kind of goes back to when we talked about Gladiator. They've tried to duplicate this show before.
Yep. And just, there's something missing.
They're coming up on, 2001. I mean, coming up on 25 years here soon. And, they've tried to make 2 series, same bulk of the creators as far as like producers and stuff. And those series are good. Take nothing away from the Pacific and
Master of the Air,
but it ain't this. I mean, if this were a movie, this would be the highest rated movie on IMDb. It sits at a 9.4.
Yeah.
And there's oddly enough, there's a couple TV shows that are actually rated higher than it. This is like the 4th highest rated TV show on IMDb.
Breaking Bad is probably one of them.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. Yeah.
So, but I do know, like, I mean, even because Laura watched Masters of the Air with me, I don't think she's seen the Pacific, but her reaction to Masters of the Air and to this was absolutely completely different. Like she liked Masters of the Air, got through it, but she was not. Again, she was not going down like, hey, are we watching episodes of Masters of the Air tonight? Where she was with Band of Brothers. She's like, are we going to watch the next episode? We're going to watch the next episode. Like, she wanted to see what went forward, what was the next, what happened next. Just because it's done so well, you connect with the characters. And going back to kind of what you said, that's not a slight against Hanks and Spielberg, but I mean, for example, they are executive producers. So like they're not in as much of the day-to-day as the rest of the producers. So they do get a lot of credit, probably helping push this along, but they're not in the trenches making this thing happen either.
So. Yeah. Jonathan said top notch. Yeah. I completely agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it deserves an annual watch. Obviously it's a lot of time to set aside to watch, I think it is. It might even be more than 10 hours.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it. I powered through on the last evening that I rewatched it. I watched episodes 8, 9, and 10 back to back to back, and it didn't feel anywhere close to 3 hours. So,
and 8 is the last patrol, right? The one where
and you get that through Webster.
Yeah, through Webster, which I'm sure it is, but it's so interesting that he even talks about it, where he's just like, I was with these guys through D-Day and through Market Garden, and also I miss one major battle and
the major battle.
Yeah,
and you're right. Yeah. You're right. He had been relegated. Of course, by the end of the episode, he kind of earned his stripes back, and they were. Of course, his story is really interesting. The fact that he became this like super successful writer for like the Saturday Evening Post or something like that, and then another he was published, and then he decided to go sailing by himself. That didn't end well.
No, that's what you don't do. But
how much does that suck though to survive World War II?
And then go sailing and
then you go sailing and no.
But so there's a bunch of books that I've read that all talk about kind of replacements or other people coming into squads, and they're just like, until you see something, you can't, like, they don't give you the time of the day because they don't know, are you going to survive? Are you going to have their backs? Those kind of things. But the moment you kind of have gone through a battle with them or seen action with them, then it's kind of like, all right, now you can kind of be part of the unit. Now we'll talk to you because you're not just a replacement anymore. You've been here with that though. But again, Webster also had the problem of he didn't really push to go rejoin his unit.
Oh yeah, they let him know it too.
Yeah, he's like, well, I had to go to medical and I had to go to rehabilitation.
Yeah, like Popeye didn't have a problem.
Yeah, well, and half of them were still very injured by the time they got back. They were barely function, but yet they made it.
I don't know that it's talked about enough in the show because you only get that one scene where Blythe gets wheeled in, and Gordon's in there getting like his third Purple Heart. Mm-hmm. They don't really show, because I think the big motivation for like Garnier and Popeye and those guys to come back is like emotionally, it's a worse place to be in those hospitals. And I don't know that they really touched on that much, like that would be a motivation to like get back to your unit, versus like dragging out your recovery. And then of course those guys weren't injured enough to like get shipped back to the States anyway. So the one that never made sense to me though, is when Harry Welsh gets like that really bad piece of shrapnel in his thigh.
Yeah.
And then like a couple episodes later, he's back. Like by the time they're in like Hagenau, I think he's pretty much back with the unit. Mm. And they joke like Nixon's like, oh, how's that scratch doing or something like that, But it's like, man, that looked like a really gnarly wound where he could like lose his leg. But then he he did. He recovered. And I always liked Harry. Like, I love that line where like Nixon gives him the flask when they're on the train. It's like, and he's waking up. He's like, this looks like it's going to be a real nice trip.
So we have to talk Sobel a little bit, of course, because
Schwimmer's is awesome.
Amazing. Because totally, like, I mean, obviously at this point he's at he's at about the height of being Ross from Friends, right? So you're trying to push that away, and he does such a great job. I mean, like, you loathe him completely. But they actually talk about, like, I was reading an article that was talking about that Sobel's actually considered one of the best, like, training, captains or whatever, like training officers, because of his ability to form such a cohesive unit, because they hate him so much. I mean, they talk about it obviously in the show. He's like, do you not know, like, there's no one in this company that wouldn't double time Curry to take a crap in that guy's, Wheaties or whatever,
his morning coffee.
Yeah, morning coffee. Thank you. And it's and that was his gift of just being able to, like, they all hated him so much they just came together as a unit. And it's talked about, like, he went on to continue to kind of do that. And it's not a joke. He sometimes performed, got the best units out there because they all learned to just kind of focus on helping each other and learning the stuff just so they could basically crap in his coffee. Or, desire to. Oh, but it's always a laugh of when he walks. He's like the joke of, he's like, we're gonna have a light day. It's gonna rain.
Oh yeah.
I like spaghetti, and then we're running curry. Oh, that's the worst.
Class is canceled.
Yeah. Laura had a hard time with that scene when they run up the hill just puking left and right.
Oh, there's nothing like eating some spaghetti and then
having to run. Oh, you're not supposed to eat carbs that close to running, but.
So do you know everybody that's in the that's in on the live stream? Because Johnny's in here, who I work with.
I know whoever's commented, I know the rest besides Jonathan. So
okay, all right, then everybody's getting merch then.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So if you've commented,
we can do that.
Or if you're in listening and you haven't commented yet, you should, because we were going
to give away some stuff, and
yeah, there's 6 people watching at the moment.
Yeah, it's a massive following. No, we
massive.
Of course,
following.
If I could get a live stream functioning properly. By the way, I fouled the Facebook up royally. I mean, it's running, but it's about 7 minutes behind.
We missed our chance here as well. We should have 100% should have been no live stream tonight. Rolled in with fog, 24-hour stand down. We even joked about that.
This might be our second and final live, like, ever. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Shannon's like, free merch.
Yeah, and Cartland's totally here for the merch. That tracks, Cartland. That tracks. That makes sense. I'm displaying some of it, obviously.
So you know Shannon?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I know everybody. Well.
So Shannon, you either want a coffee mug like Alec is sipping from right in the moment, or a t-shirt. We have a black t-shirt with the yellow logo in the middle, and then there's a white t-shirt with a black logo.
Everybody's getting merch. Wow.
Yeah. And I can hook Johnny up since I work with him. So when he gets back, he took like a year off.
Carlin did already calling on the merch.
Yeah, we appreciate. Like,
we do
hanging out.
You know, you just, the people that know me, you just let me know.
Yeah, because I can get that. We can get that all sent out, and I can send out some stickers too. I
think, Travis, if you're still here, buddy, you let us know.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah,
but no, so Schwimmer as Sobel is super impressive. there is a vocal minority that does not like him in the role, like doesn't think he's good in the role. And I'm like, I've always been confused by that because it's, well, you're not supposed to like him. So what exactly is the issue? Dubious. If Alec agrees, I'm like, what else are you looking for? He's supposed to be pretty much despicable.
Yeah. And he's great in the role. Like I don't see Ross at all.
No, I don't either.
I see certain things that David Schwimmer, the actor, does.
Sure.
But I definitely feel this is a different character than what he plays in Friends. And I loved it. I mean, there was a time that my sister and I and our family, we watched Friends constantly. And so watching this the first time, I really had to kind of like focus like, oh, this is not Friends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I think he's tremendous.
Yeah, I agree.
The only problem with taking a role like that is you don't get to hang out with the crew.
No.
Yeah, like you don't get to hang out with the rest of the cast because you're supposed to be at odds with each other, which kind of stinks. So.
That tracks, Isla. That tracks.
Commenting for merch. No more merch.
No. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man. I agree with you. This is high up for me. I know it's probably your favorite, but this is an absolute stunning piece of cinema, and I think it still holds up. 23 plus years later.
I think it's going to hold up for a long time because you're talking about a period piece of nonfiction done at the highest level. So, I mean, if we're still enjoying a film like Lawrence of Arabia, which I'm not comparing this to that, but this thing's going to have legs for a long time. Like it'll be 50 years old and it should still stand as this piece of not just history, but like amazing drama and action. And yeah, it's devastating though, man. And I got there was a little bit of dust and particles and stuff in the air near the end of the show when they're playing baseball and Winters is recounting, what they went on to do and like when they passed away. And obviously a lot of that's pretty dated now. Cause when they released it, quite a few of these guys are actually still alive. And now like almost none of them are. Like, I don't think any Toccoa men are still alive. I think there's a few replacements that are still but there. Yeah, it's
my goodness. And this is going to kind of go back to what we talked about before, but just that, 4-year window, like 99 to 2000, 2001, maybe a little bit of 98, a little bit of 2002, just amazing films and content that came out that time period. I mean, we were blessed, good sir. Like, to think that
well, I told you that. Yeah, I've told you it distorted my
of what should be happening every single year. So
yeah, I was like, why?
I mean, 98, you get Saving Private Ryan, then kind of cap it off with this.
Well, and Ridley Scott fooled me. I thought he was going to keep making bangers forever because there's Gladiator in 2000, and then he follows it up with Black Hawk Down, and I'm just like, this guy can't miss. And then it was like, yeah.
But then he made Napoleon.
Your favorite movie?
I still dislike that movie so much.
No, I do appreciate. I kind of said that Hanks and Spielberg maybe get a little too much credit for the show, but the reality is that
it's not made without them.
It's not, and they kind of rock this World War II stuff like no one else. Like there's a passion for telling these guys stories, and I'm super grateful that they remain committed to like that era of history, I guess. So, oh, by the way, the Why We Fight, I guess we didn't get into that. That's just, that episode wrecks me every single time. nonsense, shenanigans.
Yeah.
But no, that episode, because this show feels like an amalgamation of Private Ryan and then Schindler's List with episode 9.
Yeah. It's
that is the one thing you do not get in Private Ryan. It's just not that. It's not that kind of story. It's D-Day plus what 4 or 5 or something like that. You just don't. You're not going to get into that. But I know Masters of the Air touched on it on the Holocaust, but Band of Brothers, that scene is
tough. Well, and it's also really tough at the end of it too, when like the end of the episode were basically like, and you know, obviously this really happened, was they were like, hey, we got to keep you in the camp and we've got to not feed you a lot. Like we have to bring you back up to being able to eat this stuff. Cause I mean, they did have people who, you know, were given chocolate or other stuff and actually either got super sick or died because of it. And so it was like how would you feel if you're in the camp, you're being freed, but then asked to stay, you know, and the place where your friend's family died and you were treated poorly. I mean, obviously that they helped get things better, but it was like, it's got to just wreck you.
Well, yeah, the surgeon comes out, the unit surgeon is just like, you cannot continue to feed these people, these men. They'll overeat, and then the body basically puts the body into a state of you eat your own internal. Yeah, it's nasty. But yeah, so that episode, man, you watch Liebgott like have to deliver that.
Oh, that in his entire he's
and he's Jewish, and it's like he's like, please don't make me tell these guys that we've got to lock them back up in here. And Liebgott's a funny character. I love. He's talking to Webster. He's like, what did you study? Literature. Oh, I like to read. Dick Tracy, Flash Gordon mostly. Yeah, Liebgott's great. Great. And they go, by the way, that scene where it's Liebgott, Webster, and then another guy that I don't recognize, and they're in a Jeep, and they're trailing a guy that they think was one of the camp commandants.
Yeah.
And he's in that like little chalet cabin in I think they're in Austria or something like that. Totally has Inglourious Bastard vibes. In fact, it felt like Tarantino had watched it and was like, oh yeah,
let's steal it. Yeah,
because Liebgott's like, I'm killing this guy. I don't care whether he was really a commandant or not. It doesn't matter.
You know, the commandant can take off his uniform, so no one would know. So they may have to give him something, carve into his forehead, so everyone would know. Sorry. That's a different movie.
Well, and that is. We will bring Inglourious Bastards onto the podcast for 2025 for sure. That's my favorite Tarantino movie still. So yeah, you're probably going to take that uniform off, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, sir. You got any last thoughts about Band of Brothers?
No, just that we really suck at live streaming, and
we do. We really thank you for those people who are here and took the time to log in. And
100 episodes, man.
Yeah, this is crazy. 100 episodes of almost 2 years. Only 2 years next month.
Yeah, and most podcasts quit after like 6 episodes. So
yeah,
I'll consider it a win. But
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's basically we'd be having these conversations regardless of.
Well, the problem is we would, but they would just be like Google chat sessions.
So for those listeners, we actually have to stop ourselves multiple times as we're chatting back and forth throughout the day of like, oh no, we got to save this for the pod. Save this. Nope. I can't talk about what I just watched because we're talking about it for the pod, or all these other things. So we have to kind of like briefly talk around them, like suggest movies or things like, oh, hey, you should watch X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But well, I will say I appreciate folks that came on here. We do have the ability, and I'll kind of put this in Alec's court since most folks are from your cohort, Alec. But we do have the ability with the software that we use to live stream, which is Riverside, which we also record in remotely. People can come and listen to the show when we decide to record whenever they want.
Yeah.
Like you just need the link, the audience link to come in, but I don't want to put it into, to YouTube because I don't want to mess up the order of stuff, but people are more than welcome to like,
yeah. So if you want it,
hang out when we do these, but usually a Sunday or a Monday night.
Though you have to sign up for our Patreon.
Oh God. Oh my gosh.
The Patreon that doesn't exist.
No. We've never been able to come up with any, that's a value proposition. And like, yeah.
We're not there yet.
We'll never be there. No. Don't worry about it.
No.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No.
I do this to talk to you, buddy. I do this to talk to you.
Yeah. 100 episodes. The frustrating thing is it feels firmly like we're in the era of mid cinema, like you've said, because I look through the stuff that came out in 2024 and stuff I watched versus stuff I kind of took a pass on. And there's a few things here and there that I think I should go back and watch, but then I'm looking at 2025 and I'm like, man, that's just not a lot.
No,
not a lot coming. So
especially not in actual like movie cinema. Like there's some TV stuff that's coming out, but
yeah,
I mean, between all the strikes and
yeah, we're
else,
still
and all the streaming services cutting back of like going, oh, hey, this quantity thing is not working. Hopefully that means we're going to get some quality stuff, but that takes time to start from scratch. And so there's a lot of projects that got kind of canned or kind of shut down because they were like, hey, we are going to cut back on funding. So guess what? You're not doing this.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's going to be a while, probably another 6 months.
Yeah, before we see something amazing.
Well, we got Andor season 2, so.
And Severance season 2 coming out, which you still haven't seen.
No, well, I still haven't seen Shogun either, so.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness, there's so many things we could be talking about, but someone has responsibilities.
Privileges and responsibilities.
Privileges and responsibilities.
I think it's a Berenstain Bear book. You don't get privileges without responsibility. Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap this thing up. Yeah, we were gonna keep it at about an hour, so I think we're gonna hold that. But we will get everybody's information that was in here,
T-shirt or
a T-shirt or a mug. And
sorry, Isla.
And I'll get some. I can get some Cinema A to B stickers out your way too, if everybody's more or less in that neck of the woods in Virginia.
Yep.
But yeah, we appreciate everybody jumping in, and I joke that this is our last live stream. It's ironic that our first live stream went way smoother. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't even get it to go back into YouTube to the right feed. I don't know what that was about, but
this is what happens when you only do it once a year, you know?
Yeah. And it's probably a good thing. I'm not a big fan of live streaming, but these are pretty fun. So awesome. Yeah, well, we will sign off. And, if anybody's hanging out in here, doesn't listen to a bunch of our stuff, which I don't think that's probably the case, but we're everywhere. Like you would get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean is kind of who hosts us, so they've got a pretty decent app.
They do.
YouTube, we put the video versions up. I don't edit them anymore. Like I used to edit them down, and that got to be kind of time consuming. So if you want like a raw conversation, YouTube's probably the last couple YouTube videos are pretty much more or less unedited. And yeah, we just we'll keep it going into 2025. We're having like a blast just doing this, like just talking shop, and
we appreciate you listening.
Yeah, so we're sort of blown away that anybody even like bothers to like spend 30 minutes and listen to, but we'll keep it going. And if you've got requests, hit up Alec.
Yeah.
We're kind of behind on the requests. We got some stuff sitting back there that I just haven't gotten to yet. But
guess what? I got to pick some movies for us to talk about soon. Anyways, we're gonna hit some requests up. So
Happy New Year to you too, Shannon. Looking forward to what 2025's got in store.
Yes, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good times.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you all next week. And thanks. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, everybody.